I'm Josiah.
And I'm Tyler, and
you're watching Extra Auto.
In this first segment, we will be doing an oil change on a 2015 Subaru Impreza hatchback. According to an article by AMS Oil, we will be using 5.1 quarts of 0W20. In this segment, we will be interviewing Miss Schipper from Jordan High School.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm really looking forward to going to Valley Fair today.
Oh yeah.
Not really. It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
Some rain.
So the first question we have is, what got you interested in motorbikes?
Okay. Well, I'll just kind of set the stage here. My husband actually got me into motorcycles. I really wasn't too interested. I rode maybe once or twice when I was in high school, and then had children, and then I didn't want to kind of risk having the kids and dangers of a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But then later, when the kids are older, my husband got another Harley, and I thought, man, I'm gonna try this out. So what we had is a Honda, 1984 Honda Nighthawk, 750 cc's, like not a big bike.
Right.
Anybody can handle this bike, and so you learn how to ride this little bike. So I practiced with that, and it had all kinds of troubles, 1984.
Yeah.
Carburetors leaking all over the place. But I knew that if I could ride this bike and I could go take my license, then I could handle a bigger bike.
Right.
And what was maintenance like on the bike?
Oh my gosh, it was such a piece of junk. So I'm not a motorhead. I didn't learn about this, but I thought riding would be really cool.
Right.
And so maintenance, my husband, I just relied on him. I didn't know anything. Talk about a dope. This is not how you should get into riding. You should really know a few things. And so I knew, how to check the oil and make sure nothing's leaking and check air on the tires for sure. Because this is just a really fast bicycle.
Right.
You can ride a bicycle, but if you're gonna, if you run into something, and so all of the things like making sure your windshield is clean, making sure your brake lines and your clutch lines are tight.
Yeah.
All of these things I had to learn. And so, he taught me a few things, but you can definitely pick that up on YouTube.
Right.
Safety is number one.
Speaking about safety, what helmets or gear do you prefer? Like.
Okay, I'm gonna take you back on a story.
Okay.
So when before I even decided I'm just gonna get my license. I'm not gonna invest in a bike and helmet and gear and all this yet. So I got this old crummy helmet, and I took my bike from New Prague to Mankato, where I signed up, registered for a test. Whee! On my little 750, all the way on the back roads, so nobody's around, the middle of the week, so no traffic or anything. And I get halfway there, and I'm almost out of gas. I'm like, this is a motorcycle. I should be able to go for hundreds of miles on this tank. No. So I fill up halfway. I get down to Mankato. I took my test. I barely passed. I am coming back. I had to fill up again halfway. I get home. I'm like, hey, honey, I thought motorcycles went a long way. Well, no, it was the carburetor problem. It just was leaking water through the carb and burning it like crazy. So at that point, though, I had my license, and then we shopped around for a Harley, something that was light enough but sturdy enough for me to ride and feel comfortable on. So that's when we found a 2009 Dyna lowrider, a Harley that was manageable for me.
Right.
And had a detachable windshield. It had tricked out tank and paint. It was really cool. But before I could ride that and feel comfortable, I went and bought a helmet at the Harley dealer with a shield, a sun shading, transition shield.
Yeah.
So it's super safe. Just, you never want to be in the sun without protection on your eyes. I bought a good set of boots. I bought leathers, and gloves, and then we slowly went out. But my bike had, what do they call it? It's not forward-reaching pedals, but just straight up and down. I don't know what these are called, but anyway, my husband adjusted it because I have longer legs, so I had more forward-reaching pedals. So we went out one day, and we were heading to, I think, Wasika or somewhere down the country roads. Shifting. I had nothing. No clutch. No shifting. No. And so I'm going about 55 miles an hour, and I'm like, this is not good for an inexperienced rider. I feel like a rookie still.
Right.
So anyway, I was able to coast and pull off on the side, and he pulled over, and a bolt had fallen out of my clutch pedal, my shifting pedal. But it happened to be right there. It was loose. It just came out, and so he put it back together, and off we went.
Right.
And that made me go, I shouldn't just be out cruising around on this bike that I don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
So that kind of put that impetus on me to learn how to take care of it better. Take a look at the belts, take a look at the wheels, take a look at everything. And this is a serious deal, if you don't want to have an accident.
Yeah.
What else would you recommend for people getting into the hobby?
Taking a motorcycle safety course. The state of Minnesota has them. It's like $100, maybe $200. It would be so worth it. Because riding a bike, that's easy. Turning, you said, versus leaning into your turn into a curve, and instead of turning like your steering wheel, that you can feel that and you can learn that on your own if you practice. We have a lot of roundabouts, so knowing when to downshift coming into a roundabout and hitting that curve just right. You could learn that in the motorcycle safety courses. And if you take one at Harley, it's for free if you buy a bike there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you take it through the Minnesota state, it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the technical colleges, and cheap. So if you have a bike, for sure, hands down, I would say do that, because what they teach you is la 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 la, something runs out in front of you, you gotta move that bike.
Yeah.
But not going, like a bicycle, 17 miles an
Yeah.
hour. You're going 50, 55 miles an hour, and something jumps out in front of you. You got to know how to manage your bike.
Yeah.
And they teach you that. You practice in a safe parking lot. So for sure, anybody starting out, I would say,
Right.
do that.
All right, listen up.
We ride with you.
I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the Harley Davidson motorcycle, because I know that there's a lot of interest in the Hondas and the what we call crotch rockets, the racing type bikes where you're leaned over. But Harley Davidson has been in the motorcycle business, and this also is true for LeSueur Henderson and the Indian brands, upright cruisers. But Harley started out with a couple of guys who were friends, who were just kind of interested. They saw this bicycle with a motor on it and just kind of went ding, ding, ding. They hated school. And then they decided in their dad's garage, or in their dad's basement actually, to start building these fast bicycles. And the dad kicked them out of the basement and moved them along. And so the history of Harley Davidson goes way back to the 1800s. It brings us forward to like where my Dyna came into play, to the 1960s and 70s. And in the 60s and 70s, they had those cool choppers,
Yeah.
and the movies were all about that, and that was really cool. So that's when people started noticing the motors on Harley Davidson. And it's a V-twin, right?
Yeah.
And you might have heard of a knucklehead, or a panhead, or a shovelhead. These are the different types of V-twin motors. So if you're looking at a Harley and you see this V in there, you can see this cover, this rocker cover. And the first rocker covers looked like an upside down pan. And so they called it the panhead. And the knucklehead looked like kind of a knuckle.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the shovel head looks kind of like a shovel handle. So most currently, now they just do, there's so much engineering and new creation for bikes. Now the shovel head has morphed into something that's, an old shovel head is now something. They don't have a name for it.
Right.
But that's something that anybody can recognize on a Harley, is looking at the V-twin, versus like the Asian bikes that are, I couldn't even speak about those. Those are quick.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in cruising, I would choose something like an upright Harley, LeSueur Henderson, if you can find one, an Indian also, if you can find one. But for the younger crowd who's searching for that really, really fast leaning over bike, please be safe. Please have gear, because you never know. Those bikes can go 200 miles an hour, and you just don't even know. A dog can still run out in front of you at 200 miles an hour.
So for a bicycle like that, how often would you change your oil on that?
Generally, we just change. We didn't put too many miles on in the summers. It was a winter maintenance. So about every February, we get our tabs. We redo the insurance. The insurance is for 1 year. Tabs are for 1 year on motorcycles. That's when we do all the filters, change brakes if we need to, rotors, and check oil and all of the fluids. Make sure everything's clean because it's sat all winter.
Right.
But you can have that done at a service place. Or if you're interested in doing it yourself, I would recommend getting a lift. So like at Harbor Freight, you can buy a $200 motorcycle lift. Even if it's on gravel, if you have a gravel floor in a shop or something, that lifts your bike up this high, and then you can really get a good view of everything instead of trying to lay down underneath it and look at it. So that's what we would do for maintenance. I did sell my bike though last summer because for me that bike was really lightweight, even though it was 1200 cc's, but in the wind it really pushed me around. So a bigger bike might be worth it if you're going to go cruising cross country and comfort, taking a big road trip.
And then with oil changes, would you do them yourself personally?
No, I have my husband do it.
Your husband.
Yeah, no, I used to do the cars and everything, and now I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore.
So, if you want, can you talk about more about the leaning and turning?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and like different turns and curves.
Okay, so if you are riding a bicycle, you just turn your handlebars, right?
Right.
Because you're going so slow. But if you are riding on a motorcycle, you're going to look ahead, let's say 40, 50, 60 feet, depending on how fast you're going.
Right.
And you're going to see a curve. So I want you to imagine, let's not do a roundabout yet. Let's just do a curve, let's say you're going on Ventura Highway in California and you're like, okay, I see that curve coming up.
Right.
I know there's cars coming at me. Okay, you're going to, as you go into the curve, you're downshift, so you're not going too fast into it, and then you're gonna lean and push away from the curve. And this is so counterintuitive, where our brains are like, no, that's not what I do with my bicycle, right? But if you lean and push, you're gonna go that way. If you lean and push, you're gonna go that way.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
It's difficult to explain, and I'd heard it over and over and over, but until you actually are trying it on a bike, that's why I say roundabouts, because you're going a lot slower, right? You downshift going into the roundabout, and then go into the roundabout, and then you're going to increase your speed in the middle of the curve. So here's our road,
Yep.
and there's our curve. Okay, so I'm downshiffting, lean your body, push the handlebars, pick up speed right at the curve of the curve, if you will. Okay, that's where you're gonna pick up speed, because that bike's gonna take off, and that's the fun part. That's what people love doing, those curves. I say these little crotch rocket bikes that are so fast. It's a challenge, because those puppies they'll take off so fast.
Right.
And if you don't lean and push, you're gonna go off that way instead of that way.
Huh.
Yeah.
So something I've talked about with other people that have bikes is, what's scarier, personally, do you think? Going really fast in a vehicle or going really fast on a bike?
Ooh, scarier. Is anybody else in the car or on the bike?
Just
me?
yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's scarier on a bike, but more exhilarating. Because scarier, you have way bigger problems because you don't have airbags, you don't have protection. However, if you're an experienced bike rider, you can kind of grab control faster of the bike if you could slow down. Versus a car, if you hit that ditch, you're out of control.
Right.
And I shouldn't say that. The same thing could happen with a bike. But I think, as far as, I'm just a safety person. I never ever give myself enough credit for riding well, for being able to recover from a drop in the road, or a gravel truck throws something off, or something. I don't give myself enough credit, and so when I ride, I'm always nervous. My husband's like, "Whoa, I love riding my bike, looking around, enjoying the scenery, cruising." I'm like, what if? What if? So now I'm comfortable in a car, but I really miss my bike.
Yeah.
I'd probably get another one.
So some things I've seen on the internet where some bike riders get these wobbles.
Oh yeah,
And they,
scary.
yeah.
The wobble of death.
Yeah. How would you recover from that without
Wiping out?
Yeah.
Always first thing, helmet, gloves, and my summer jacket had elbow protection and back protection. You're wearing chaps or jeans, you're wearing boots. Hands down, always.
Yeah.
But if the wobble of death, it actually happened on that old Honda.
Oh no.
But it wasn't too bad. I wasn't going that fast. You got to slow down as fast as you can. And that is downshifting, but hold on tight, because if you start wobbling, it's probably going to buck you. I don't know if you've ever ridden a horse. You're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that can kill people.
And would you just slow down by using your gears, or would you
Both.
brake
Both.
too?
Foot brake, hand brake, hold on tight, try to downshift. But if it gets wobbling too fast and you're going 70, 80, you're done. And it's going to toss you. That's why helmet, jacket, boots, everything, gloves. Yeah.
Scary stuff.
It is scary. And so maintenance, back to maintenance, you just have to make sure everything is secure and safe before you ride. It's way more than a car.
Right.
Well, thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you for this interview.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope that this provides you enough
Yeah.
information that you'll be safe one day in,
Yeah.
in your ability to ride.
And for the audience, you can always check us out at JHS Creative Communications on YouTube and make sure you subscribe. And check out some other episodes like Killer Instincts, Hooked on Fishing Again, and Rising Action with Bruce.